The Billionaire Who Cancelled Christmas Part 4. Chapter 7, The Mother Arrives Unannounced. The storm had not taken a single break. It remained determined, hurling snow like it had a personal vendetta against every window in the resort. But inside, for the first time since Harper arrived, the atmosphere had shifted ever so slightly. Not warm, not friendly, but less glacial. And that small miracle was brought to the world courtesy of hot chocolate diplomacy. After their unexpected truce, Harper and Grayson parted ways with something that might generously be called neutral coexistence. He went back to whatever billionaires do when avoiding feelings, and she retreated to her room, still replaying that microscopic crack in his frosty armor. An hour passed. Maybe two. Harper eventually drifted back down to the lobby to photograph the firelight flickering through the glass ornaments on the tree. She kept her movements soft and unobtrusive. The last thing she wanted was to undo their tenuous peace treaty with a single shutter click. A few staff members bustled nearby, preparing the space for evening. Everything felt calm. Slow. Quiet. And then the helicopter returned. Not Grayson's sleek, expensive, I hate holiday surprises helicopter. No. This one practically announced itself through the storm. The blades cut through the blizzard with the enthusiasm of someone who thought weather warnings were optional. Bright lights strobed through the swirling snow. The landing felt dramatic, confident, and, if Harper were being honest, chaotically optimistic in a way only certain wealthy people could manage. Harper pressed a hand to the window, watching the shape descend onto the pad. Inside the lobby, the staff stilled. One whispered, "Already?" Another whispered back, "We weren't supposed to see her until tomorrow." A third silently mouthed a single name, as if invoking a myth. Rosalind. The helicopter settled. The rotors slowed. A figure emerged. Harper watched a tall, elegant woman step onto the snowy pad with the theatrical poise of someone who had never encountered an unexpected weather pattern in her life. Her hair, perfectly styled in soft, sweeping waves, didn't move, despite the wind doing everything it could to introduce itself. She wore a long ivory coat with fur trim, pearls around her neck, and a pair of sunglasses so enormous they could have blocked ultraviolet rays and bad decisions simultaneously. She carried a matching luggage set. And a matching attitude. Harper didn't know who she was, but the staff reaction said enough. She was important. She was powerful. And she was not expected today. The second the outer doors opened to let her inside, a blast of snow swept through the lobby, followed by the scent of expensive perfume and the unmistakable energy of a woman who did not travel to mountain lodges without a very specific reason. "Hello," she called brightly, dramatically, hands spread in a gesture of gracious domination. "Is anyone alive in this fortress?" Daniel, the frazzled operations manager, scrambled forward. "Mrs. Hale. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow." Rosalind Hale removed her sunglasses in one elegant motion that suggested she'd practiced the gesture in multiple mirrors. "Nonsense," she said, smiling as if she'd just solved global diplomacy with charm alone. "I simply decided to come early. The gala preparations can't possibly survive another day without supervision." Harper blinked. Gala. Preparations. Supervision. This did not sound like a man who bans Christmas event. Rosalind scanned the lobby, clearly expecting her son to materialize within 3 seconds of her royal entrance. Her gaze landed on the staircase. Where she demanded, "Is Grayson?" As if summoned by gravitational force, or parental instinct, Grayson Hale appeared at the top of the stairs. Not rushed. Not frazzled. Just resigned. "Mother," he said. "Oh." Rosalind exhaled dramatically, clasping a hand to her heart. "Thank goodness. I was afraid the storm swallowed you." "It tried," he said dryly. She breezed past the comment, sweeping across the lobby with a flourish of her coat. "I simply had to come early, darling. There's so much to do. Florists. Caterers. Lighting designers. Your tailor, the one who understands your shoulders better than you do. And of course, the small matter of your—" Her words died in her throat. Because she had just noticed Harper. Harper, who had been standing politely near the tree, holding her camera and trying to make herself exactly the size of a decorative lamp. The silence was instantaneous. Rosalind's eyes widened to an impressive cinematic degree. Her pearl necklace shifted against her collarbone as she straightened abruptly, lips parting in a soft gasp that echoed lightly against the marble floors. "Oh," Rosalind breathed, blinking as if she wasn't sure whether Harper was a guest, a ghost, or the manifestation of a dramatic plot twist. "There's someone here." Harper lifted a small, deeply awkward hand. "Hi." Rosalind turned slowly toward her son, voice dropping into a tone of refined alarm. "Grayson. Darling. Who is this?" Grayson closed his eyes for half a second, the emotional equivalent of a man bracing himself against a wave. "Her name is Harper Meadows," he said calmly. "She's a guest." "A guest?" Rosalind repeated, clutching her pearls so hard they nearly filed a noise complaint. "During winter closure?" "Yes." "A guest in December?" "Yes." Rosalind's eyes darted between them in rapid succession. Grayson, stoic, irritated; Harper, trying not to dissolve; back to Grayson, still stoic, still irritated. "I see," Rosalind said, nodding slowly like a telenovela matriarch about to faint gracefully onto a chaise lounge. "Well, I suppose this explains the energy I felt when I walked in." Harper blinked. "I'm sorry, the energy." "You're here, dear," Rosalind said delicately, as though explaining gravity to a small child. "This resort is normally dormant this time of year. Quiet. Serene. Uninhabited." She glanced at Grayson pointedly. "Emotionally neutral." Harper felt her cheeks burn. "Oh. I didn't realize I was interrupting." "Neutrality." Rosalind gave her a sympathetic smile that somehow contained 3 parts curiosity, 2 parts suspicion, and 1 part maternal theatrics. "Well," she announced, regaining her brightness, "I am delighted to meet you. Even if you are an unexpected variable." Harper didn't know how to respond to that. "Thank you." Grayson stepped closer, shoulders shifting in subtle tension. "Mother," Harper was stranded by the storm. "She didn't choose to be here." Rosalind waved a hand airily. "Oh, darling, no one chooses to be here in December. Not even you." Harper's eyebrows lifted slightly. Rosalind tilted her head, examining Harper like a jeweler assessing a gemstone she didn't remember placing in the case. "Are you comfortable? Is your room acceptable? Do you require a shawl? You look like someone who could appreciate a shawl." "I'm good," Harper said, voice squeaking slightly. "Thank you." "Wonderful," Rosalind replied, smiling warmly right before dropping the real issue like a chandelier. "So long as you understand this is an exceptionally unusual circumstance." Harper nodded. "Yes. Very unusual." Rosalind's smile brightened. "Lovely. Well, I assume you and Grayson will sort out how to coexist. Grayson bristled. Mother. But. Rosalind continued over him, I must warn you, Harper dear, my son is very particular during this season. Very structured. Don't take it personally. Oh, I haven't, Harper said immediately. Grayson shot her a look that said he was absolutely taking it personally. Rosalind, meanwhile, beamed. Good. Then we're all in harmony. She reached out, squeezed Grayson's shoulder affectionately, and then, with all the grace of a queen exiting her throne room, announced. I will go freshen up. I need to prepare for the gala briefing. She glided toward the elevator, pausing only once to glance back over her shoulder. Her gaze landed on Harper. And Harper swore she saw something flicker in the woman's eyes, not judgment exactly. Not dislike. More like. What are you doing in my son's Christmas-free sanctuary? And why does it feel significant? The elevator doors slid closed. The tension remained. Grayson exhaled, pinching the bridge of his nose. Apologies. She wasn't supposed to arrive tonight. Harper forced a smile. It's fine. She seems spirited. He made a noise between a sigh and a groan. That's one word for it. They stood in silence for a beat, neither quite knowing what to do next. Then Grayson said, I'll speak with her. About the situation. Don't let it concern you. Oh, Harper said, I'm already concerned. His gaze snapped to hers, sharper, deeper, unreadable. But before either could say more, a gust of wind rattled the windows, turning both their attention back to the storm. Harper took a small step back. Grayson remained very still. The invisible line between them, the one that had started to shift during hot chocolate hour, flickered again, uncertain, complicated. And above them, Rosalind Hale, elegant, dramatic, and already plotting, had absolutely no idea what she had just walked into. But she would find out. Soon. Very soon. And absolutely dramatically. Chapter 8, Rosalind's plan for a proper match. The storm outside had gone from aggressive to theatrical. Snow wasn't simply falling, it was swirling, gliding past the windows in slow, dramatic sweeps, as if some cosmic director had decided the mountain needed mood lighting for whatever emotional mess was brewing inside the resort. Harper told herself she should stay in her room for the evening. Really? Truly? Absolutely. It was the sensible thing to do. She'd had a long day. She'd mistaken a billionaire for a decorative statue. She'd been caught calling him the CEO of a holiday shutdown. She'd made renegade hot chocolate. She'd survived the arrival of a woman who entered a room like a high society hurricane. She deserved rest. But the problem with rooms, especially luxurious ones with plush bedding and tasteful lighting, was that they were quiet. Too quiet. And quiet gave the brain space to start replaying all the embarrassing things she'd said to Grayson Hale within the last 24 hours. So Harper wandered. Gently. Softly. Like a guest trying very hard not to give the building emotional whiplash. She drifted down a side corridor near the ballroom, partly because she was curious, partly because she'd heard someone mention a gala and she had a weakness for grand, unnecessary events, and partly because the staff had left the door open just a little, and the universe knew she couldn't resist an open door. Inside, the ballroom lights were on low, casting a golden sheen across the polished floor. Tables stood waiting, elegant in their simplicity, while tall windows framed the storm like a live performance. Harper stepped in only far enough to admire the space. And that's when she heard voices. Not just voices. Rosalind's voice. Elevated. Dramatic. Crisp enough to slice the snowy air. And Grayson's. Low. Steady. Not quite irritated, but definitely bracing himself. Harper froze behind a column, partly out of courtesy, mostly out of self-preservation. She fully intended to leave. Truly. But the conversation drifted to her before she could retreat. Grayson, Rosalind said, her heels clicking across the ballroom floor, we need to discuss the introduction. Oh no. This sounded important. Harper took one baby step backward. Then she heard Grayson reply, tone tight. Mother, now isn't the time. Nonsense, Rosalind declared. There is no time but now. The gala is tomorrow, and you know perfectly well what it symbolizes. Grayson paused, sounding weary. A social fundraiser. Rosalind gasped dramatically. A fundraiser, yes. But also a refined opportunity to continue building alliances between families who know how to maintain reputations, traditions, and... Mother, Grayson warned, not this again. Rosalind ignored him in the impressive way only mothers with decades of practice could. You have obligations, darling, she pressed. You are the head of a legacy. And it is long overdue that you establish a proper match. Someone with presence. Status. A background that complements your own. Harper's breath caught. Oh. Oh no. No, no, no. Rosalind continued, barely pausing to breathe. I have already arranged a polite, simple introduction between you and Clarissa Montague. Clarissa Montague. The name dropped like a chandelier in Harper's stomach. She and her family are very eager, Rosalind added cheerfully. She's lovely, accomplished, well-connected. I'm not interested, Grayson said, his voice suddenly sharper. Not now. Not in that. Rosalind clicked closer, Harper could hear her coat swish. You do not have to be interested in the moment, dear. You simply have to be present. I am asking for one introduction. 10 minutes of pleasant conversation. A photograph with tasteful lighting. Mother. A future cannot build itself, Grayson, Rosalind continued firmly, and this young woman's family has been supportive of our enterprises for years. It's time we show the same goodwill. A long silence followed. Harper held her breath, fingers curling around the edge of the column. Then Rosalind added gently, painfully gently. Your father would have wanted this. Harper's chest tightened. That sentence had weight, the kind that lived in old grief. Finally, Grayson spoke, voice rougher now, though still controlled. I am not ready for that kind of arrangement. And even if I were, this matchmaking plan is not the way. Rosalind huffed. You say that every year. Because it's true every year, he said. And yet, Rosalind replied archly, you have not offered a single alternative. More silence. A heavy, complicated one. Harper could practically feel Grayson sinking into it, a mix of frustration, guilt, boundaries, and fatigue all fighting for space. He finally exhaled. I will attend the gala as you asked. But I refuse to be paraded around like an eligible bachelor at an auction. Rosalind gave a thin smile. No one said auction. It's implied. Rosalind sighed dramatically, the universal sign of a mother concluding an argument while fully intending to revisit it later. Fine, she conceded. We will tone it down. But Clarissa will attend dinner tomorrow. And you will speak to her. Bare minimum of politeness. And Harper? Grayson asked suddenly. Harper's heart lodged somewhere between her ribs. Rosalind's voice softened into polite dismissal. Oh, she's a temporary guest. A sweet one, I'm sure. But not part of this sphere. Something inside Harper wilted. Oh, Grayson said quietly. Not agreement. Not disagreement. Just recognition. Rosalind continued briskly, Clarissa is the priority. We can't have distractions right now. Distractions. The word landed harder than Harper expected. She backed up, careful not to make a sound. Her throat felt tight, her heart sinking with a quiet ache she didn't quite understand yet. She hadn't come here looking to be anything to Grayson Hale, certainly not a distraction. She wasn't part of their world. She wasn't part of any world that had galas, legacies, or arranged introductions with families who used words like alliances. She was a photographer. A guest by accident. A problem by circumstance. She retreated from the ballroom doorway, moving lightly, silently, trying to steady the sudden mix of embarrassment and disappointment swirling inside her. Behind her, Rosalind's voice floated one last time. Trust me, Grayson. Clarissa will be a far more suitable match than any surprise guest the storm dragged in. Harper paused. A tiny breath escaped her. Not anger. Not jealousy. Just a small, painful sting. She stepped into the hallway, letting the golden ballroom light fade behind her. Right, she whispered to herself. A distraction. Perfect. And somewhere deeper inside the lodge, Grayson Hale stood with his mother, his expression unreadable, his mood opaque, his walls lifting back up one careful brick at a time, completely unaware that Harper had heard every word. Chapter 9, The Tense Dinner. By the next evening, the storm had grown so thick it felt like the resort was floating inside a snow globe someone kept shaking with questionable enthusiasm. Everything outside was white, soft, and muffled. Everything inside was glowing, warm, and tense. Very tense. Rosalind Hale had spent the entire afternoon preparing the dining room like a general prepping for a diplomatic summit. And she did it with theatrical precision, tapping plates to check their tone, adjusting napkin folds with military seriousness, and trailing staff members with a gentle but terrifying, "Dear, that fork is angled like you've given up on life." When Harper wandered into the dining room doorway, drawn by the soft clinking of silverware and the golden lighting, she immediately sensed she'd stepped into delicate territory. Table long. Candles tall. Silver shining like it had been personally insulted during polishing. Atmosphere, strained elegance with a light dusting of emotional danger. Harper hovered uncertainly at the entrance. She knew she should stay away from this. She really knew. Last night, she'd overheard Rosalind discussing matchmaking plans with Grayson, the kind that did not include surprise photographers trapped by weather. The sting of that conversation still lingered faintly, tucked somewhere under her ribs like a splinter. But the table needed help. The staff needed help. And Harper, despite her best efforts, was genetically incapable of watching people struggle while she stood off to the side like a decorative fern. She stepped forward gently. "Hey," she said softly to a young staff member arranging candles. "Need help with anything?" The girl looked up, startled, in the same way a field mouse might be startled by a hawk that may or may not be friendly. "Oh. We're almost done, but thank you." "Are you sure?" Harper asked, offering a warm smile. I can fold napkins. Or at least attempt to fold napkins. They might look panicked, but they'll be folded. The girl let out a nervous laugh. But before she could answer, a perfectly modulated voice chimed in behind Harper. Oh, darling, no. No, no, no. Harper turned. Rosalind Hale glided toward her, wearing a pale silver gown that looked like it had been sewn from frost and expensive expectations. Her pearls glowed against her neckline. Her smile was dazzling. Her eyes calculating. Harper, dear, she continued sweetly, you don't need to trouble yourself with this. Oh, Harper said, backing up a step. I really don't mind. Rosalind touched her elbow gently, the kind of gentle that felt like a velvet rope at an exclusive event. I know you mean well, she said, her tone warm and motherly and very clearly communicating please step away from the expensive table. But this evening's arrangement is highly curated. Harper blinked. I know. I overheard a little about the dinner. Rosalind gave a charming laugh, airy and practiced. Oh, it's nothing dramatic, dear. Just a small gathering. A little tradition between families. Harper nodded, the sting returning faintly. Right. Rosalind's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, just long enough to hint that perhaps she realized Harper had heard more than she should have, before smoothing back into perfection. And we simply must keep everything impeccable, she went on. Every plate. Every flower. Every. Her gaze swept subtly down Harper's outfit, cozy sweater, dark jeans, snow-warmed cheeks. She didn't say anything, but Harper felt the message land anyway. Harper gave a small, awkward nod and stepped back another pace. Of course. I understand. Rosalind rewarded her with a soft pat on the arm. Lovely. You're such a considerate young woman. The compliment felt like a sticker given after preventing a small catastrophe. Harper forced a grin. Well, I try. Rosalind turned back to the table, immediately resuming command. Daniel, dear, make sure the centerpiece is perfectly symmetrical. If the roses lean even slightly to the left, they look uncertain. Harper quietly retreated to the edge of the room, just far enough to no longer be hovering but close enough to witness the elegant production unfolding. A moment later, footsteps entered the dining room, clean, confident, unmistakable. Grayson Hale. Dark suit. Crisp shirt. Expression carved from his usual mixture of restrained irritation and internal calculation. He walked in as though arriving for a board meeting rather than a holiday-adjacent dinner his mother had staged like a diplomatic peace treaty. He saw Harper. He paused. Just for a moment, a flicker. A subtle shift behind those storm blue eyes. Not warmth, but recognition. Awareness. He looked away almost immediately, his posture stiffening, as though acknowledging her made the situation even messier. Harper stepped back further, pretending to check her camera settings even though the lens cap was still on. The socialite, Clarissa Montague, entered next. She swept in like she'd been waiting her entire life for a grand entrance into a mountain resort dinner scene. Tall, impeccable styled, wearing a gown that shimmered in soft metallic tones. She had the kind of confidence that came from a lifetime of ballroom training and never being told no. Her eyes found Grayson instantly. Her smile was one of those polished, politely hungry ones. Grayson, she said, gliding toward him. He nodded stiffly. Clarissa. Clarissa's gaze flicked briefly toward Harper, taking note of her presence, her sweater, her placement near the wall, and with one glance, Harper felt categorized. Not cruelly. Not rudely. Just, sorted. As one might sort silverware. Rosalind beamed, hands clasped like a delighted conductor. Wonderful. Now, everyone take a seat. Staff moved quietly around the table, setting final touches, but Harper stayed rooted to her safe corner. She wasn't invited. She didn't belong here. And honestly, the last thing she wanted was to accidentally sit in the wrong chair and cause an emotional avalanche. Rosalind noticed. Her smile warmed, but her tone stayed resolute. "Oh, Harper dear," she said, "don't trouble yourself with dinner tonight. Truly. You must be exhausted from the storm and your long journey. Please, rest, relax, enjoy the lounge." Harper swallowed. She recognized kindness. She also recognized dismissal wrapped in lace. "Of course," Harper said softly. "I'll get out of your way." Rosalind waved her off with radiant maternal elegance. "Not at all. You aren't in the way. We simply have a traditional seating arrangement. You understand?" Harper nodded. "I do." And she did. She backed away slowly, slipping out of the dining room just as the candles flickered to life and Clarissa leaned in toward Grayson with well-practiced charm. Harper felt a pinprick of something she refused to name. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't hurt. It was more like awareness. The awareness that she was outside looking in. That whatever world Grayson Hale belonged to, curate, refined, strategic, was not hers. Not even close. Back in the quiet hallway, she exhaled a long breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Behind her, the dining room hummed with polite conversation, clinking glasses, and Rosalind's delighted chatter. Ahead of her, the lodge sprawled softly, corridors lit in warm golden tones, fireplaces crackling. And Harper felt small in a way she hadn't since arriving. Just a guest. Just a temporary presence. Just someone waiting out a storm in a world she hadn't meant to step into. She wrapped her arms around herself, heading for the lounge, trying to shake off the heaviness curling in her chest. Just one night, she whispered to herself. One dinner. It's nothing, Harper. Don't get weird about it. But the truth lingered in the quiet. Clarissa Montague fit perfectly at that table. Harper Meadows did not. And tomorrow, she feared, would only sharpen that line further.
Thanks for listening to Billionaire Romance Stories, where love meets luxury in the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. We love hearing your favorite twists and favorite theories. And don't forget to ring that bell, because in this world of yachts, secrets, and luxurious romance, the next story is always one click away.